it's Angie from Feeling a Little Bookish. I'm here to bring you my April wrap up. I'm a bit late, and it's only because the weekend I had intended on filming, my husband had to work. And then the weekend after that, my son got sick. And then last weekend, we were all sick. Not COVID. We're all good in that area. But yeah, so I might sound a little nasally, and it's only because I'm getting over the cold. I might have to occasionally stop, take a drink, but that will be edited out. So yeah, let's get a move on it. First though, I wanted to just show you guys some bookmarks that were specially made for me. So it's my friend's small business, and the business is called Unique Affairs. I'll put her Instagram link below. Her name's Vanessa. So she makes all these personalized items, and I had asked her if she can make bookmarks for me, like leather bookmarks. What she gave me was actually really nice. So and, it was a process, but it was a good process because she asked what colors I wanted, what shape, how I wanted my name to look on it, what color tassel. So the first one is clear, and here's the tassel, and it's like a nice baby blue color, which I really like. And I wonder, you could kind of see it. It's like a shiny tassel, which is really cool. And then the next one is black and gold, which is like my favorite color combination. So here it is. This is what it looks like here. And then the tassel is gold. And it's not that thick. Like, I tried it on one of the books that I have. Here, I'll just show you guys. So if you pop this in here, it's like that, it's not like super thick or anything, so it works as well, even though it's acrylic. But yeah, so here they are. Price, I don't remember how much they are. You can always like DM her on Instagram, and then she can give you the information. I don't know if she ships outside of Canada. I'll find out, and then I'll write it in the description as well. So I got that. Yeah, so let's get started. So the first book that I read was Jagged Paradise by Brynn, and this one was about Andres and Avalon. So they grew up in a trailer park together, and they were 17 years old. 17, she was turning 18. And so finally when she turned 18, because they've known each other since they were 10, finally, she admits to him that I like you and all this stuff, and they have a moment. But then the next day she's kidnapped by someone that they both know, but I won't tell who. And thankfully she makes it out alive, like she escapes. But then it's just a road to recovery, and because of who it is, Andres, he actually ends up leaving to go to college and all that, and leaving where they live. And then when he comes back so many years later, she's upset, obviously, because he left her when she needed him the most, but he needed to get away, otherwise he wouldn't have healed as well. And she basically hates him. And then he's there to do a documentary on the other victims, the ones that unfortunately didn't make it out alive, and also to speak to her so she can give some perspective on the whole ordeal. There is a happily ever after, but it's just their relationship was real in respect to, they had both suffered something so tragic, and they had to learn to be there for one another. And you could tell that the love was there. It was evident. It wasn't like it went away, even though there was hate from her. But yeah, it was a really good book. There were moments where I cried, and actually their sex scenes were pretty hot. It was the first book that I had read where I felt the tension and everything down to my toes, and when you could feel that, and when as a reader, when you can feel that experience as well, you're like, whoa, and it's good. Yeah, so I won't go over each book in depth. I'm just gonna go over 4 of them, so first 4, and the rest I'll just, quickly talk about. So the next book that I read was Untouchable by Sam Mariano. And so I read this and then I bought it because I'm like, I need to have this book on my shelf. Okay, so when I was looking at reviews of this book, because the first like 10% of it is has to do with like a sexual assault and whatnot, so trigger warning. A lot of people just DNF'd it, and a lot of people, where they were like, okay, well, it's hard to swallow like what's happening in this book. But once you get that past that part, because okay, I'll be straight up too. Once I got to like that part, I was like, why am I continuing to read this book? I'm like, no, things don't trigger me unless it has to do with children. Let me continue reading this book. And I'm glad that I did, because oh my god. Okay, so Carter doesn't, how to explain this? So he kind of stays himself even all the way to the ending. Like, he doesn't let anyone mess around and and like if something upsets him or he doesn't like something, he just deals with it the same way. Like, he's a popular guy at school and part of the football team, and basically the town worships football, so he can get away with anything. And then Zoe is she's just trying to get through her senior year and whatnot, and because something happened previously, and with the new school year and stuff, she's just trying to make it through so she could leave town. Their relationship, sorry, it was, there were so many times where I was like, how is she dealing with this? Because I don't think I would have known how. I know for one, in real life, I wouldn't have fallen for Carter. Let's be real. But she fell for him, and he proved himself to her, and he was there for her, and she was there for him, and he took some time like opening up. Like, there were things that happened that went on in his life that he wanted to talk about, but then he felt comfortable enough talking to her about it eventually and whatnot. For a while she hated him, she hated that whole group, but then he broke through to her. I know, it's so strange to talk about this book, especially with what like the first few chapters have to deal with, but it's good. Once you can read it, it's good. And so I had to have it on my shelf. And I mean, I normally don't like covers with like half naked men on it. But I was like, okay, look at this. Hold on, let me just, I have like the curtains up and stuff, so the light, and then I have my ring light overhead too. So I kind of, there we go. Who would want this? I would reread this. I would definitely reread this. The next book that I read was Truly by Carmel Rhodes. This was like, it had Untouchable vibes as well. It did. But it was about Noah Tedesco and Truly. So Noah's on the basketball team, and he's like, every girl wants him, every girl likes him. And Truly was actually dating his brother Devin. But Devin broke up with her on graduation day, so then she's like devastated, but she had this whole trip planned with her best friend as well. She's like, screw it, I'm gonna still go on this trip, whatever. She goes to a party, which is at Noah's house, and Noah and Devin are actually half brothers, and they don't live together. They have different mothers. I believe. I'm trying to remember. I read this at the beginning of April. Different mothers. Yeah. Same father. Yes. Anyway, so whatever. They break up. He breaks up with her. She doesn't know why. And so she goes to this party one night at Noah's house because her best friend starts dating Noah's friend. And it's just like, you know, let's just go to this party. Let's have fun. And Noah's always hated her. And she doesn't know why. So she ends up at this party. And then flash forward, she goes on her trip. Noah hijacks the trip basically, and him and his friend, which is her best friend's boyfriend, they're all on this trip. They're stuck together. I think it's for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, so they go on this trip, and then Noah and Truly click. Obviously, there's some issues. There is an HEA, but you find out why as well. Why Devin broke up with Truly, and then you're like, oh, damn, I feel bad for Devin. But you can't help and fall for Noah. And the sex is great. Everything's great about this book. This is another reread as well. The next book that I read was These Monstrous Ties in the Unsainted series by K.B. Rhodes. I actually read book 1, 2, and 3. Right now we'll talk about book 1. The quick rundown is, basically, it has to deal with the Unsaints, which is like a secret society. And so every year on Halloween, they have their shot to, like, the members of the group, they have their shot to, like, sacrifice a girl. So Lucifer and Jeremiah are part of it, but Lucifer actually sees Sid on Halloween night as she's about to go harm herself. He takes her with her as, like, his sacrifice. So they're down in the asylum, and, you know, unfortunately she was drugged, so she doesn't know what's really going on. And then the next day she is with Jeremiah. Turns out Jeremiah is her brother, because Sid has grown up in foster home. She was separated from Jeremiah when they were kids. She didn't know where he was. He didn't know where she was. And so she thinks the entire time that he saved her. And so they're both trying to get away from Lucifer because he chose her to be his sacrifice, and then Jeremiah left the Unsaints. So now they're both basically targets. But Jeremiah actually comes up with his own, I guess, organization called Rain, because his last name's Jeremiah Rain. So it's like this whole thing. It's really good. It has a lot of action. You know, there are a few triggers in it as well. Obviously, there's talk of suicide, and there's violence, and there's sexual assault, all that, throughout the series. So, yeah, so that's book 1. Book 2 is Pray for Scars. And that one is a continuation from where book 1 left off, where Sid actually escaped, and she's trying to get away from both Lucifer and Jeremiah. However, they both find her. And then the third one is The Cruelest Chaos. But this one's focused on Maverick and Ella. So Ella is actually someone that Maverick meets one night, and she's just as... You know, I'm just going to say it. She's just as crazy as him. But they work. She's got her demons. He's got his demons. And you actually, Lucifer and Sid, their whole storyline, Jeremiah's actually on the run. But their whole story is intertwined as well. But the main focus of the third book, The Cruelest Chaos, is Maverick and Ella. Maverick, okay, first of all, I never liked Lucifer. And I love Jeremiah, but Maverick is up there. Maverick is definitely up there. I really like him. But, again, like, this series is not for everyone. So, yeah, there are a lot of trigger warnings as well. And the next book that I read was Born Darkly by Trisha Wolfe, and is part of the Darkly Madly duet. I think that's what it's called. or Madly Darkly. I always say it wrong. But the first book is Born Darkly. So it's about Grayson, who is on death row. He is a serial killer. And but the thing is, he kills people. This is such a strange thing to say. But for him, his explanation was he kills people that should be killed. So there's like pedophiles, there's rapists, liars, like basically people that have done wrong in their life, he kills them. So he's on death row, and London is his psychologist. I always get them mixed up. Anyway, she's trying to figure out, because she has to also testify, but she is trying to figure out why he's done the things that he done. You know, is he can't kill these people as a way of judgment. You know, basically, she's to find out why is he doing this, and what gives him the reason to do this. And also, she has her own problems as well that she's basically running away from, and he has pieced together her life on his own. So he knows things about her. He's done his research, and before you know it, he's kidnapped her, which then leads into the second book, and the second book of the duet. There's only two, which is Born Madly. So here you have she's kidnapped, and you know, at this point she's fallen for him, but she also is aware that he's not a great person, but she also has her demons. She also has her darkness. And I find that a lot of reviews said it was like a whole Harley Quinn Joker situation, but I didn't think that, because from what I understood, well, obviously Joker's super abusive and didn't love Harley Quinn, and in this case, Grayson and London actually love each other, and she already had her demons, she already had her issues, she was just trying to have this whole new life for herself, and like make things right for herself and her life. Anyway, so the second book, he kidnaps her, and then he ends up on the run as well, so like he escapes, and then so basically they try to keep each other afloat, and they're obviously in love with one another. It sounds crazy. There are a lot of trigger warnings, but it was a good duet. I mean, you have to, it was more a suspense and like thriller romance, I found, which was good. Trisha Wolfe has a lot of books that are similar to this, like the whole romantic suspense thriller vibe, which I love reading. But yeah, this was a really good duet, and it was quick. I don't think, I'd have to double check, but I don't think the books were past like 200 pages each. I could be wrong, unless I just read it really fast, and in my head I think it was short. But the next book that I read was Diver's Heart by K.A. Knight. This book was crazy. So it was good. It was scary. Okay, so it was a reverse harem. So when I got it, because I got it as an ARC, I'm like, okay, so this book is a reverse harem. It's going to be about this girl. She's going to be like in love with all these guys. There's going to be like romance for each of them, whatnot. But actually the majority of the book took place in the ocean. And they're all divers. They're professional divers. So when I first signed up for this book, I thought diver, and I've thought of like swimming pools, so like they're diving off and they have like a career, like an Olympic swimming career. But then as I read it, I'm like, oh, they dive into the ocean and they find things. So yeah, so the characters are Peyton. Peyton's the girl in the book. And then there's Tyler, Finn, Riggs, and Caitlyn. Tyler and Caitlyn are brothers, and then Riggs and Finn are their best friends. So there's like a whole flashback scene to, so Peyton and Tyler have a relationship, but then as they were dating, she also fell in love with the other three guys. But I think she only really got physical, but I don't think all the way. I don't remember, with Caitlyn, but she was like with Tyler because he like proposed to her, and she said no. And then it takes you to the future, like present time, where they're all back on this expedition now. They have to dive into the ocean because Peyton's like a world-class diver. Like, she's #1. And then these guys. So they're all together working with this like millionaire guy who wants them to dive into the ocean. They dive into the ocean. There's these scary creatures. Like, this is probably why subconsciously, like, I don't swim. I don't know how to swim. This is why I probably don't go in water, because I'm scared of what I'm gonna end up seeing. So this book was scary. It makes you wonder what's in the ocean. There are the romantic connections. There's like tragedy. There's things that happen. There is an HEA. You're gonna wonder why. You're gonna wonder, how is there an HEA when there's 4 guys and there's 1 girl? It can happen, apparently. I can't handle 1 guy, so I mean, kudos to Peyton for handling 4. But it does happen. And it was a good book. And it was scary. That's all I'm gonna say. It was scary. I was on the edge half the time, like, oh my god, what is gonna happen? Is somebody else gonna tragically die? I can't handle all these scary creatures, but it was good. And the next book that I read was Hate Me by Ashley Jade. I love Ashley Jade's books. Hate Me was out for some time. I think it came out in January. And when I finally picked it up, I was like, why didn't I read this sooner? So it has to do with Knox and Aspen. So Knox and Aspen, Aspen's dad and Knox's uncle are best friends. So Aspen's dad dies. And then, you know, years pass. Aspen's mom marries Knox's dad, and he's a police officer, or is he a detective? I can't remember. But Knox's dad and Aspen's dad's best friend are brothers. So Knox has always hated Aspen. She never understands why. She never knows why. They go to school together. He makes her life a living hell. Like, he's like mean to her. He's basically mean to her. It's a bully romance. He's mean to her. But they live together. And then eventually they get close, and you know, they fall for each other. But there's also a suspense thriller aspect to it, which I also enjoyed. It's not just, oh, stepbrother, stepsister fall in love. Like, there's more to it. You find out why Knox is the way that he is, why his dad is, like, I knew something was off with his dad very early on in the book. And then you find out stuff about Leo, and that is Knox's uncle, so Aspen's dad's best friend. So there's this whole thing. And then, like, her mom, I cannot stand her mom. And I'm happy with how the book ended, although it was a little crazy. But I'm happy with how it ended because her mom was like, and you know what's crazy too? Side note, I read a lot of books this month that had messed up dads and messed up parents in general. I'm not picking these books on purpose. Like, my parents are amazing, but like, damn, her mom was brutal. And his dad too. His dad was crazy, and you could tell very early on. But then once you get to what his dad has actually done, you're like, holy smokes. Anyway, we're gonna talk about crazy right now. The next book that I read was The Bad Ones by Stylo Fantôme. This book should just have, I liked it, I enjoyed it, but I like twisted things. But this book needs to just, at the beginning, this trigger warning, she's just like, listen, this is not a typical romance. This is not one that you'll be like, oh, like, there's a lot of stuff that happens in this book. It is dark. So it's about Dolce and Constantine, but he likes to be called Con. They're in the same high school together. Con is popular. He's a jock. I think it's for football. I want to say. I could be wrong, but he is a jock. He's popular. And then Dolce's like that art girl, and she thinks Con has never noticed her, but he's noticed her. And one day she saves his butt because he's about to get in trouble for something. And she's like, no, he was with me. He didn't do what you said he did. And then he leaves because high school's ending. He goes to college. He comes back. But the whole time, the short amount of time that they spent together before he left for college, it really stuck with her, and like she fell for him. And he comes back to town, and before he left though, they did do something, and he comes back to town, and they pick up basically from where they left off. They're both crazy. They're both twisted. They both have super dark sides. And they just keep doing these things. But they do things to protect themselves. There is murder in this book. There's a lot of stuff in here. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my goodness. What did I just read? Like, are there really people out there like this? There has to be. They were like a true ride or die. Like, I will protect you no matter what. And I could never be like that. But Dolce and Con were just there for one another. They did what they had to do. Eventually they leave town. There is an HEA, although you sit there and you're like, should they get an HEA? But they do. And I mean, it was a good book. It was a wild ride. The next book that I read was The Prince I Love to Hate by Iris Morland. And this centers around a girl named, a woman named Niamh. Sorry, I said her name wrong. Her name's Neve. It's spelled Niamh, but it's Neve. And her family's Irish, yes. Anyway, she has to go to Ireland because her grandfather has settled his estate after 4 years of being dead, and everything belongs to her. So she has to go there to claim the estate, speak to his lawyer, whatever. However, he leaves a letter. And in the letter, he says, basically, find this clock. And while she's at the estate, she meets this guy, who is Olivier, and he ends up being a prince. But she didn't know at the time. He goes on this adventure because he needs to find the clock too. And also she hasn't spoken to her dad in years. I don't think she was born yet when her dad, from what I remember, she wasn't even born yet. Yeah, and her brother, there's a 17-year age gap. Her parents were really young when when they had her brother. And right before she was born, her dad just left. And her mom ended up getting sick, and her brother had to, take care of her and whatnot. No, was it a 17-year gap? No, he was 17. I think so. I know when she was 6, her brother took her and went to the States. Anyway, because the mom had passed away, so for a few years they lived with her aunt and uncle. So her brother and her lived with her aunt and uncle, and they helped take care of her while her brother went to school and stuff. And then they went to the States, just her and her brother, and he took care of her as if that was his own kid, because there was nobody else. So anyway, she has to go to Ireland and look for this clock, and then Olivier has to look for this clock as well, and he's French, and so there's this whole trip that they take. And there is an HEA, and I really like this book. And you know what? I normally don't gravitate towards books that have illustrated covers, because I'm like, oh, it's going to be cheesy. It's going to be, and it's bad to say because I actually read another book, which was on a past TBR. I think it was my April TBR or March TBR, one of them. And it also had an illustrated cover, and it was super good, and I can't stop thinking about it. But anyway, The Prince I Love to Hate, it was a good book. Don't let illustrated covers, make you stray from them. Some of them are actually really good, and they're not just cheesy. They're actually really good romances. And finally, the last book that I read was Fractured Rain, which is book 3. in the Gravestone Elite trilogy by Caitlyn Dare. I'm so sad this series is over. So again, it centers around Bex, Mia, and Cade. And Cade, okay, listen, when I read the first book, I thought that he could redeem himself. Like, maybe the series will go that way. He doesn't redeem himself. He does not. He is a bad guy. And, you know, you find out some other things as well about Bex and Mia and Cade. And there are tragedies that happen in the third book because it continues right after the cliffhanger in book 2. And there is an HEA, but there's a lot of stuff that happens before that HEA can even happen. And Cade is dealt in a way that I personally didn't think he deserved it, but Mia's Mia, and I guess, I don't know. I guess because you find out why Cade is the way that he is, Mia's like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna let him go. But I'm sad that the series is over because I really enjoyed it a lot, and I really fell for Bexley and Mia. I think they're one of the best couples that I've read in books recently. It's a good series. It's a good trilogy. Again, like, it's the whole secret society, like, elite, you know, happening, but but Bexley is that hero. Bexley is that, like, touch my woman and I'll kill you, but I'm not just an asshole for you know, for fun. Like, he's a genuinely nice guy, but when it comes to Mia, he's ready to throw down, and that's what I like. So that is my April wrap-up. Those are all the books that I read. I will put all the titles for the books that I read this month in the description below. I'll also post the profile, the link to the Instagram page for Unique Affairs, and they did my personalized bookmarks. And if you have any questions or comments or even suggestions, just leave them in the comments below. Thanks, bye.